Welcome back, everyone. Today we will be doing our CKA daily recap as day number 2. In our prior video, we talked about the core architecture of Kubernetes at a high level and various different components. Today we will be talking about the core concepts that we're going over in the Udemy course that I'm taking. Stuff like the what is a container, what is a pod, what is a replica set, what is a deployment, and various different key commands that you should familiarize yourself for when you take the exam. So what is a container? A container is essentially a lightweight, isolated process that packages an application with everything it needs to run. And then a pod is essentially the smallest deployable unit in Kubernetes, ephemeral by nature, wrapping one or more containers that share the same network space, IP address, and storage. Now, a pod can be composed of more than one container, but a container is not a pod. So a container is a subset of a pod, essentially. And there are different types of containers that you can have in a pod, like init containers, sidecars, and there are others, but today we're just keeping it simple. A replica set is essentially a controller that watches the cluster and ensures that a specified number of pod replicas are always in the desired state. So when you deploy a pod to a Kubernetes cluster, it doesn't necessarily have a number of replicas. And what would I mean by number of replicas? Well, let's say your application needs to scale and you need to be able to handle that workload, right? So maybe you would want to have extra copies running of your application, and to do that you would have extra replicas. So replica set could handle that, right? Now, a deployment is essentially kind of one step further, where it's the standard way to run stateless workloads in Kubernetes, and it manages the replica set, which in turn the replica set manages the pods. It adds also the ability for rolling updates and rollback. Of course, this isn't everything that it does, but this is just to give you a gist of some of the things that I went over today in today's Udemy's lecture. For some of the key commands to run, like we were talking about using kubectl run, and specifying the command line arguments, so that, let's say you wanted to create the YAML specification, and instead of learning how to write it out completely, you could use that and like try run, and then essentially go ahead and redirect the output to a file, right? Then using kubectl create, apply, replace on that particular manifest that you've created with that object, to do those types of operations to create whatever it is you're trying to create, whether it be a pod, a deployment, replica set, and so on and so forth. Now, other things in the laboratory that we went over is like how to get the object, for example, get pods, showing kind of like what each of the columns represent, and the output, the desired state versus the running state, the number of replica sets, number of pods you see, get the deployments, and the various differences between the different types of basically CRDs. Then we also went over using the kubectl scale command, which essentially allows you to scale the object type and give it a name to the desired number of replicas you want. So you could, in theory, scale to replicas equal to 1 or n, depending on if you have available compute capacity, right? But this is essentially some of the things that we're going over in today's learning session using the Udemy course. That's all I had for today. In our next session, we will essentially be going over the next steps, or the next set of lectures I have to go over. And this is all in preparation for my CKA exam. So thanks for joining. Hope to see you in the next one. Bye. Take care.